All right. Welcome to the Hip Hop Hustle podcast. I'm with the one and the only, the real X-Man. One of my favorite names, I gotta say, that I've come across, because it's like mixing, like, that comic book in there as well. And I was like, oh, I've got to speak to the real X-Man. But as we said off camera, like, one of the big reasons I wanted to have you on the show is because I think you're doing very different things, and you've switched up the mold of a traditional hip hop artist. I mean, we just look at, what you're wearing and how you dress and your aesthetic. And it is completely different to what we see traditionally. So, man, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the show.
Thanks for having me.
Well, let me ask you this. How do people react to your aesthetic? Because, like, I'm always a fan of people who take risks and do different things, but what's the general feedback from fans and from people who run into your music for the first time?
I think it depends on the person. It's ever changing. Most shock at first, like, or wanting to understand or wanting to figure out, like, this is intriguing, this is interesting. Um, and then from there, they're captivated, they're stuck. they're starting to do the digging, like, what is going on here? It's always a good time. It's always the unexpected, I guess you could say.
Is that
It's
somewhat
my jam.
is that somewhat intentional, like, to have that part of it?
Intentional, maybe I would say so. I just get bored pretty quick. So I'm just like doing what I feel is good. Like I'm doing what entertains me, and I think that's entertaining to most.
Yeah. Because were you dressing like this before you made your, like, step into hip hop, or was this part of it as well?
Yeah. Always been wild into fashion, always been into crazy looks, big ideas, big concepts, big just everything over the top, extra bright, colorful. Just I don't even know where to begin. It's just been a part of me my whole life. And I it might be because I'm a Scorpio. I'm around Halloween, baby. So it's always costumes and things when it's time to have a party for yourself and celebrate. So maybe that's one of those. That might be one of those inspirations there. But no, I've always been like that. Always trying to craft something or create something new, or um, taking an outfit and then doing it backwards or reversing it and trying it upside down, or just making it my own, trying to make everything. How would I wear this, or how would I do this? So that's just been me.
It's awesome because, like, I've always wondered with some artists whether they create the persona once they become an artist, or whether it's always been in there and it's just like now it's manifesting and they're letting it out in its truest form.
I think it's a bit of both. I think if you're not bringing your real self to your artistry, it's kind of hard to ever connect with people or find people that connect with you. So you do have to bring yourself into it. You are the persona. You are the the one on stage, or you're the one that's making the record. So you have to really be into what you're doing, believe in what you're doing. It has to be you, or it's really really hard. It gets really hard to falsify.
There's something weird about that in music, though, that, actors, they pretend all the time. Like, that's their job. They pretend, they play a role, they, like, get into character, and then they switch out and they're like, I am who I am. But with musicians, it seems to be very different in that sense, that if you're fake, people are like, I'm not buying it. Like, even though
Mhm.
you may make good music, there's something about the music that they don't seem to gravitate to. I've always wondered why that is.
I I'm not even sure. That's a good question. I know a lot of actors get into a role that they're comfortable with based off of, like, maybe they've had experiences in these situations, or they studied this topic, or if I'm playing a firefighter, I might have been one in my past career. So they still tend to be close, something as a connector piece to that, and that's what makes it authentic. And then they often get, like, typecasted, which means they'll be in that role, similar to that role, their whole career. So that's just what they're good at. Like, Kevin Hart is always going to be a comedic style actor because he came from comedy. So it's just it is acting, but it's still in your truth. It's still in your zone, your element.
Mm. I'd hate to be typecast and just do the same things. Like it would just drive me crazy. I feel like that's Bruce Willis these days. Is just like all those old dudes. Actually, they're all like the buff strong men, and The Rock. He drives me crazy because there's going to be a bit of hate towards The Rock, even though I admire him so much as like who he is. But like he plays the same dude in every movie. It doesn't matter. He just plays
But he's
himself.
good at it.
He's very good at it. His work ethic is
You gotta do
ridiculous.
what you know. You gotta do what's true to you. And that buff guy was him before film. So it's not fake. It's just him acting as a different name,
Yeah,
different
yeah.
storyline.
But what were you doing before music? Like, what was your transition like into music?
um, like how I began music,
Yeah.
the origin. Music has always been like a big part of me. I remember being really young and like rushing home from school and just to be glued to the screen and watch MTV, see the BET countdown videos, or see who dropped their new music video. Just the entertainment of it all has always fascinated me, and I just never saw where it would be possible to do that. Obviously, there was nobody that looked like me or was like me, so you just push it away. So it's just always been there. I remember being like looking at the screen and thinking like, "Hey, I want to be Usher," like trying to do all the dance moves in the, the living room, probably breaking furniture, being wild little boy, crazy over the top. But um, again, there was no really like how to route back then. You just kind of saw it and hoped and dreamed, but it wasn't as tangible, I guess you can say. So I just stuck with artistic things like dance and just other types of creativity things that kept me close, but I didn't lose what I was doing. So getting into music was like learning to like meet somebody that knows somebody that knows somebody, and that just like filtered in to me with my current producer, and we've been together ever since. So it's not a straight it's not a straight path. There's definitely a lot of like going around and coming back through and remembering why you started and what you actually set out to do.
Let's be honest though, if it was a straight path, I don't think you'd be as good and as committed as you are.
I think I'll be bored. I get bored pretty quick. Um, and I don't know why that is, but it's always been like that. Always been involved with like so many sports young, like, all right, now track's over, let's do the next thing. Like just keep going. I think that keeps me focused, keeps me finding inspiration from different places. I'm not pulling from where everyone else will be pulling from because who knows what I'll be doing the next day. And it's become a whole hodgepodge of art forms merged into the entertainer.
And let's be honest, if it was really easy, would it be fun? Like there's something about the challenge that makes it fun.
It is, and it's something about the like goal setting. I feel like it's just like goal setting. You set your goals, then you accomplish them, and you're like, now what? I gotta set the next bar, and then it becomes addicting. It becomes like, okay, that was good. What's next? Okay, and then you just keep planning for more and more, and you get to meet more people, experience more things, and before you know it, a couple of years go by. You're like, what happened? Yeah, so it's just a never ending journey, and I don't think I would enjoy it if it was easy.
Is it hard to be forever goal setting? I find that with myself that it's difficult to celebrate because I'm like, all right, awesome, achieved, tick. Can't get too overconfident because I need to set new goals and set new challenges and achieve new things.
Um, I do struggle with that. The celebrating part. You work so hard for this aha moment where we're all clapping, excited, and then you don't do it. You've already moved on, and then you're realizing that you're working for a moment that you never stopped to do. And I don't know what that. Maybe that's just human nature. That's the drive. That's the fight. That's the want. That's the work ethic. The I want more. I want more. I want more. I want to work harder. I want to go further. But that stopping to celebrate, uh, it's hard. I mean, as soon as you're done releasing a song, you're like, now I've got to promote. So you don't really get to stop and be like, I did it, because you only did like chapter one of like a million chapters left for that song, and it's like some people compare it to giving birth to a child, because you like go through the it's in you. You have you know it's about to come out, and baby comes out, and then the work begins. Like it doesn't you don't get to stop and celebrate. They're all milestones that many artists try to um grab and hold on to, so you do feel like some point of success. And I like to use those to like gauge where I am to where I want to be. But it's still really hard to call that celebrating because it's still work.
Yeah. And when you are successful, you're very cautious about like, awesome, I've got the heat. Now I've got to make sure I capture the heat and not let it go. So it's not even like when you get huge success or something really blows up and you're like amazing, you're like, oh shit, now's my chance. Now I got to really
Right.
double down, and I got to really make sure that, you know, you double up on the work. So if anything, you celebrate even less because you're like, oh shit, it's happening. My dreams are happening. Let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Like I can't be out here celebrating. I need to be in the gym working out because this is my only time to do that before I have to go write another song. And then it's a lot, from creating your own videos to figuring out what you're going to wear to keeping your socials updated to keeping everything on the business side of the music together to planning out when you're going to go do events or meet people or who you'll be working with next. It's just a lot of nonstop. It's like a wheel of many things that people don't see. But you got to do it. You got to do it. It's like no, there is no way to get around it. And if somebody knows the cheat code, send it my way, even though I know it probably won't work.
Yeah.
There may be some new
I'm
techniques out there.
I'm pretty confident the cheat codes don't work because those people are all over the internet going, how to blow up in 3 minutes. It's like if it was
And so
3 minutes, everyone would blow up. Like, let's be honest. It's the grind. And I don't know. Yeah, and I'm sure you've met people who want to be musicians and then they live the reality of what it's like to be a musician and they're like, holy shit, it's not just me in the studio writing. It is
Mhm.
those other things that you mentioned. It is early mornings, it is getting your physicality on top, it is getting like your movements, it is getting on top of just the way you dress, just the way you feel, and then the marketing and how you present social media wise. And I feel like all of that is the hard part, not the creating part.
They're like what you want to do is like this much, but what you have to do is like this much. So um it's finding that balance. I mean, really, really setting your goals and then sticking to it and not letting people defer you from that. I mean, can we go out tonight? No, we can't go out tonight. Can we? No, we can't. I have to do like you're sacrificing a lot constantly just to get a glimpse further. Like it's not even like you're literally sacrificing so much to get just one more footstep forward, one more footstep forward, and eventually it does pay off and becomes worth it. I definitely think all the sacrifices have happened for the better, but dang, you sure missed out on a lot of life to create the life that you want. So
Is it hard for people to understand that when they're around you, like in your personal life, when you're saying no to things or you're like making sacrifices or you're just like, hey, I can't go to this or I can't spend time on this Friday night and be out and then be groggy on a Saturday morning. Like I just can't afford that.
I think it used to be because I the way I set boundaries, but now being upfront with those people and being honest with them and just transparent. Like it's just not the week, it's just not the month, it's just not, keeping them up to date. They actually respect it more. That I am focused and they actually take the art form way more serious and they're way more supportive of it because it's now open communication. Not that I'm like ditching you, but like in the morning I have to do this interview or like it's like I really do need to stay on top of those things because I let them slip one day, then it's 2 days, then it's a month, and now I'm behind. So just having that discipline and vision, just that vision, and so many distractions around. I mean, you can sit on the internet and be TikToking for 45 minutes. That turns into 2 days of straight scrolling. You don't even know how it went by so fast. So it's easy to fall into others and what they're doing and lose sight of what you really set out to do.
I think it must be easier now, especially for like people coming into your life, that you're like, hey, this is who I am. This is what I stand for. You either with it or you're not. And I'm not taking any passengers and I'm not taking any distractions. So you can support me, or like it's just not meant to be.
I definitely think it is yes and no. I'm pretty like I like to meet people. I like to get out in the crowds and walk through, meet people, and do all the things. So as I gather more friends, followers, support, they do feel open and want to have actual like meet these days and hang out and chat and write and da 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 da. Da. And then so that can get misconstrued really fast that I am open, I'm excited, I love meeting new people, and I appreciate all the support. But when it's time to work, it is time to work. And there's no way, like if you were a doctor, you could not be emailing people back as you're doing surgery on somebody's heart. Like it's just no way. So that's my surgery and that's my um time to hone in and perfect my craft and expand it. So they sometimes mistake the big energy, the fun vibes when we're out and we're having a good time with like that should be every day. It can't be every day. Like it has to be. There's a time and place, and there's always time for those people that do show love and support. But it is not every minute of every single day. Even though I am working to make those people proud every minute of
Yeah.
every single day, just sitting there physically writing them or calling them or chatting with them is really hard to do. But I try to keep up and respond to people if they write into the comments. I always, just show my gratitude because really they are the motivation. They are the heartbeat that people don't get to see. So I'm very grateful, but I still got work to
Yeah.
do.
Yeah. Yeah. You must have a few like a lot of loyal fans that are like that were with you from day one to where you are
I
now.
feel like it's growing. I feel like it's growing, man. Every like from people, I think especially social media, this is where it helps. Now I'm starting to see people's names so often that now I can, oh, I know who this is. Like I know who I'm saying thank you to. I know who I'm like responding to. And we can actually have conversations in the comments. Like, yeah, how's that thing been going that you're working on? Like it's you do become a little bit closer to the people that you are trying to connect with. And that was something I struggled with in the beginning. That's not so much as hard now, if that makes sense.
Well, why was it more difficult in the beginning as opposed to now?
I feel like my in touch with what I was going for was too wide, too big, too many people adding their well, you should, and then I think you should, and then and then me allowing that to be the premise of the way I do my music, and that was not for me. Was not for me at all. And that is done. Let's just say that is over. That has been over for a while now. But and it makes it more clear as to who you do want to connect with and um what kind of people connect to you. And I think that's so important, especially when I'm thinking like when I'm writing, like who's gonna listen to this? Like is this gonna be, you know? So I think it's gotten so much easier being able to see those faces and know like the people who use your sounds in their videos when they're like, I want to write songs that those people would like because they're the ones who actually are connecting. They're the ones who are actually, enjoying the music as is. So I want to keep building on that and making it stronger. And it does collect more people as you go. It does collect more people as you go.
And so are you always that purposeful with the way you write in terms of like which audience will listen to this and which market? Like for anyone who's listening to this, your eyes were wide open, you're like nodding your head. But like, yeah, tell me about like the purposefulness is really interesting because I've met a lot of artists who are like, I just write what I feel and I don't really think about the market as much as I think about just creating a song. But you seem to have more purpose in like who's going to vibe with this sound or with this song or what I'm going for here.
Well, for one, I like my songs to have like energy behind them. So I'm always Uh, I mix together a lot of genres. That's my thing. I like mold sounds, and that has made me stand out so much as appreciating other cultures. But with that being said, you can't be a culture vulture. You have to actually appreciate, do your research. So yes, everything has to be fully thought out. You can't just be saying stuff and not know what you can get on the other side of that by doing that. You do need to be authentically you. You need to figure out how those inspirations match your life, your market, your reality, your message. Yes, you can say what you want to say. We have the freedom of speech, but what you do say should have value or should have a goal. Like for me, should have a reason, a rhyme, a reason. Like why are we putting all this time into? Sorry, one
That's
second.
all right.
The housekeeping is here. Hold on.
All good.
Oh my god, I'm so sorry.
Timing, right? That's to
Just
me,
like
it's
come make your day.
Murphy's law. If something doesn't
Um,
happen during the show, then did we really have an authentic show? Like, of course, your housekeeping shows up in the middle. That's how we know that this wasn't scripted at all.
I'm like shit. All right. It's like, like trying to tiptoe out the back. But yeah, that's like having that vision, having that focus, and that it makes you get in touch with your actual feelings. So, what do you want to say? How do you want this to be portrayed? And then on the other side of that, being so high energy party style artist, performing is the other thing. You have to be so freaking in shape to do this at this pace, at this caliber to impress this type of crowd. Just because they do expect the energy, they do expect the over the top, the um, I don't know, it to match the music. Like you need to have the energy that matches the song when we do see you. So that has to be in mind. Like I have to sometimes like maybe let's just pause it right there. I shouldn't put any words right there. That might be a place to catch up my breath again while I'm performing, or so those things, even if they're dancing to it, like okay, you can slow down, chill, now pick it back up here. Like you have to direct the audience to what you want to happen and what they should feel as they listen. So I definitely write with intent and purpose and organization and with a plan. Or I have a plan to develop one as I go. I'm not just gonna leave it and hope to release. And I have had songs that I'm like, let's wing it, and those songs are not released.
Really? So you've got songs that you just held back. You just not love, like they're just not what you want out of them.
Or they're just the timing isn't right, so I'll just use them as a draft and maybe go back and expand on them later. Um, I have tons of songs that are not ready to be surfaced, or maybe we need a rewrite, or maybe it's just not the right time in my life, but maybe I like it and just don't know have a use for it just yet, or So I have a lot of those a folder full of those tracks, and it does sometimes seem like a lot of waste of money, a lot of, but you realize that you don't everything doesn't have to go out to the public. You can just work on your craft or work on your craft. You don't have to always release, even though I do have a goal to release more this year. So I am trying to do better with the releasing. It's just sometimes it takes time. It's not a easy strategy or a right or wrong way to write music. Some of my songs that I've just released took a year to write, a year to get down to like this sound has to go, put this sound and replace it. This verse needs to be a little bit more chill and pick it up here, or those words need to be switched out. That was so cool last year, but no one says that no more. Like delete. So now you got to re-record the whole verse. It's like it's been a lot of editing and you know pulling back, rethinking things, run it by a couple people, see how it goes, send it to a couple DJs, let them spin it in the club, see what they think. Let me get the reaction, then I'll know if it's time to release it. So it's a lot of different ways and different factors that go into that. But I definitely do things with intent, purpose, and all to move forward, all to get towards those target people and keep connecting with those people.
I feel like you read my mind because you kind of led me to where I wanted to ask you about is, do you have plans to drop an album? Like, I feel like You that look on your face says it all. I feel like fans probably ask you that question a lot, but yeah, it like, what's your time frame? Do you have a time frame, or is it just keep doing what you're doing in terms of singles?
Um, I try to like look at a year, like roll like a year. I try to look at the whole year. Like what is realistic for a whole year? And there's of course lots of finances, lots of planning, lots of connections that need to be made to make that possible. Um, for me personally, made it a goal to like just double your catalog this year. Like you got to double the catalog. We need way more songs out. We need to show people more substance, more material, so they can really cone into what the bigger picture is. It's hard to use it like off of two songs. It's kind of hard to tell. But when you get more out there, they can say, okay, this is what it is. This is what it isn't. And that way they can know what to expect from an album. So I don't want to just throw an album out there without any real context or any real like direction, if that makes sense. So and because I switch genres and blend and pull and blah blah blah, that could be really chaotic on an album if it's not understood prior. You get if that makes sense. um Albums usually are cohesive and have some flow or vibe or energy to them that's consistent, even if the songs are faster, slower. It doesn't really matter. But the theme of the album is pretty similar. This is a club anthem, or this is for the heartbreakers, and this is like there's different styles of albums and messages that you want to get across. So um, right now, it's just really pushing singles and showing the diversity of the artist and the performance uh, and just the creativity that hasn't been pushed, I think, in this way before. I said that right. In this way before. Um, and when you're doing something so different, it takes a while for people to catch on. It really does. They're like first just shocked, like what's going on. Then they get like intrigued, and that's when they're interested, and then they see the consistency, and then get to meet you more, and then that's when they're connected. And that's when you have like, but you got to do that every day. You got to do that to every person. You got to make everybody a believer, and you do that one by one by just being your complete self. And that goes back to the first thing we were talking about. I just think it's so hard to get people to connect with you if you have to change who you are every single time you meet somebody. That is so hard to do. Like really, really hard to do. Even actors prepare like months to a year for a role to get ready. Like that's how long it takes.
Yeah,
But trying to do that every day is really hard. It's really hard. So you're just better off being yourself, doing the things you like, staying around people who are creative as well, and open-minded, and see you as what you are and what you're going for, what you bring to life, what you bring to the people around you, and it's much smoother that way. Just
definitely
much
agree.
smoother that way.
Although
One less thing you have to stress about.
I did think when you were talking about that album of like different genres, like it just made me think it's it may not necessarily be about the people need to expect it as much as the way it's constructed, in the sense of just the blend of how it transitions from song to song, and how it goes from like a mix of two genres to holding on to one genre in the next track but mixing to another, and then you could like blend it in. Like that's personally, I was like, oh, that actually sounds like a bloody cool album that you could do in terms of just a whole piece of transitioning slowly genres through, and it would still hold relevance throughout it. It would just obviously take enormous planning and enormous foresight to be able to execute something like that.
Enormous being the goal. It's definitely possible, and I definitely think it's in the works. Uh, but again, just showing people the different sides, because I still am a performer that is on stilts, and people have there's no other artist like that can get out there on stilts, and it I don't know. It's just another thing that is so way out there for people to grasp. Like, so wait, you're gonna just be up on the stage and then higher? Yeah, I am. Probably swinging from the ceiling, doing something wild. over the top while dancing, while doing the performance. That's just the way I see it. It's got to be big. It's got to be fun. It's got to be even in small settings. I want everyone to have a good time and just enjoy art.
I think
That's
that's
what I do.
I think that's a good push. And you said that like you got to be in shape. And to be honest, I look at how some artists perform and I'm like, I don't know how you're still breathing after that because like you're not like it's like running and talking or like running and yelling because like you're performing, you're like vocalizing and you're like running around and you're building up energy. Like I don't know how the bigger artists do it. I look at them and I'm like, I would die literally in 10 minutes and you're doing like an hour and a half set. Like it is crazy to me how they just, I don't know, it just feels like you really, it is working the craft of knowing how to perform a show.
Which is ever changing because there's new platforms and new ways to do it. And so many now there's virtual and there's, you're performing a show and you're right on your phone and TikTok and you still got to figure out a way to make that entertaining. It's literally ever changing, ever evolving. So I think the world has finally arrived to a place where artists like me can flourish and exist. Whereas when I was a kid, it didn't seem possible. Um, unless I was like, I don't know, had Snoop Dogg as my dad or something like, like it was really, really hard to get into it and know somebody and internet wasn't as strong and just, it just it's time. It's time and it's going so well. It's going so well just connecting with people and just pushing my art form forward between the acrobatics and the aerial skills and the writing and the connections you meet along the way. Um, I love features, by the way. So those people that you meet along the way that you probably didn't really know would be a part of your journey, become a part of your journey, and they really do shift the energy and add to. And so I'm very particular about the people I like to work with because I think it needs to align with your overall vision. Like, does it make sense? 5 years from now, you're gonna look back and be like, I shouldn't have done that. Like, and I love working with people, but I just want to make sure I'm always like, still keep the vision in mind, keep the goal in mind, and it should feel good. It should feel good as you work with them.
Yeah. And you've worked with people like Lady B, Saucy Santana, and like
Yeah,
they've been recurring features on your music.
yeah. Lardy B is one of my really, really, really close friends, and I thank music for that. I think music for that. I think that two people who probably we are literal opposites. Like I'm a freaking giant and she's like so short, and I'm pink hair and she's blue. It's like we are literal opposites, and we work so well together. It's some energies you meet people and you don't have to falsify anything. Like it's just electric and it builds and builds and builds. And we use our outside talents to bring each other together and closer and stronger. And it's just so easy. It's just like so easy with her. Like it's nothing too far out. She sees it like, okay, yeah, let's do it. Or it's nothing too small. Like, yeah, we can keep it small for this one. Let's do it this way. And just having people who also have ideas and see creativity as big and what it can be and what it's going to be before most people see it is rare. It's really rare. Like a lot of people want it like written all the way out, and they want like how it's gonna like. It's just a lot. They don't see like, okay, but what if we take this and we can make it to this, and this will get us to like. She has that foresight. She has that understanding, and she's comfortable in her craft enough to not be threatened by others' creativity. And I think that is beautiful.
Yeah. And
And
you'll
she's in
make
there for the long run.
and you'll make great music at the end of the day. I think that's what shows is like, in the songs you have together, they do seem fun. They do seem like you bounce off each other's energy as opposed to
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's just it's just simple. I don't even know how to explain it. And the whole she's signed to a label called Never Satisfied. And her energy is throughout the entire label. Like they're all like that. They're all open. They're all open-minded. They're all welcoming. Every time I show up to Never Satisfied, it's family. It's not a oh, you're the outsider coming into Never Satisfied. You're a part of Never Satisfied. And I've been so grateful for their encouragement, their their support, their welcoming, their advice, their ears, their love, just all of it. They've always been there. So it makes so much sense. They're based out of Texas. I live in San Diego, so I don't get there as much as I can as I would like to, but it is nice that when I do come back, it's always so close and they stay in touch, online or will text or whatever. But it's just it just makes sense. It just makes sense. We'll have like sleepovers. I'm like, do other artists do this? Or it's just us because we don't really care. We just do what we want. And it
Yeah.
shows on screen, shows in our music. If she's thinking something, she'll send me all of her songs. Like, check these out. Which one should I go? Should I redo this? And then we can give each other honest feedback out of love and no place else, like out of love. And I think that's so important. When it's your craft, you have to really protect it. And she is one that I trust with it.
I have to agree that you are probably not among many artists who have sleepovers or even call them sleepovers.
I mean, it is what it is. Like we don't
It's
care.
so funny. I had the image immediately of you're like sitting on the couch with the blankets and like the hot chocolate and just like watching
We
movies.
actually watched all the Twilight series the other day. We watched all of them from the beginning. I mean, it's just like real, like it's past the music. It's like we're still people, and there's rare that we meet people that understand us and are like us, have big ideas, big visions, and then we'll go from that to now we're writing music on, like we know how to balance that. And a lot of people are like just work, 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 or friends. It's hard to mix the business and pleasure with a lot of people, and I think when the business is pleasure, it's a little bit easier.
Yeah, I would have to agree. And also, like, look at you smile when you talk about her, and smile when you're like talking about the relationship. So it's obvious that you enjoy it. But there's something I
I
did
do.
want to ask you about. And you've mentioned it a couple of times, is like when you were young, you were seeing artists and you were feeling as though like there's no one like you. And
Correct.
now you feel like the world has changed in the sense of you feel as though people are accepting of who you are and what you bring to the space. But what was it like when you look at that and you look at, this is something that I want to do, but I don't see anyone who matches something similar to who I am?
Was discouraging. Was I don't know. It was like, oh, silly childhood dreams, those things. But most people will say, the imagination is strongest when you're a child, and if you can't hold on to those dreams, like, are you even gonna? What's ahead? Like, what's worth it then at that point? What can you be? You ask some kids, what do you want to be? I want to be an astronaut. I want to be a doctor. Those are cool dreams and tangible things where, you can go to a school and you can go, but like this was not the traditional, I want to be an astronaut. This is, I'm going to be a gay artist and make music in a very abstract way and add all these like stilts and all this stuff. Like this, there was no how-to book for this. So it just got to a point where you realize that the world isn't ready, so you have to just get yourself ready and be ready when your time arrives. And you are the determining factor of that. There's no one else that determines when you are ready. And I think that really helped me organize my thoughts and hone in on what I actually set out to do.
Yeah, it must be really weird to be like, oh, I'm not like, there's just, I have this dream and it feels like the world isn't ready for me in the weirdest way, as opposed to I'm not ready. Like that must be quite a challenging thing to overcome. And then even to overcome it when the world is changing, because, the history of especially hip hop is not exactly supportive of different groups. It's very much like straight dudes, and it's considerably been quite discriminatory against women, against people with different sexual orientations. And so, like,
Mhm.
it must be it must have been, and it must still at times be something that you consider when you're, out here now and really making it happen.
Yeah, I think the old narrative is is old. I mean, it's cool and it has so much structure to it and so much foundation to it. Which, if you're an artist at all, you have to appreciate. You have to find the good in all of the not so good and behind the scenes and all those kind of things. But and then decide from there where you want to be in it, and then actually do it. And that's the hard part, is actually doing it and actually committing to it and finding ways to stay uplifted when it is heavy and it is hard and it is thick and it is not as easy and it's sometimes not all together, and it doesn't have to be. It just has to make sense here, and then you can do it. Like, I've just learned that as soon as I can figure it out here and make up my mind and really sort through my thoughts, and no matter what's going on, I've been able to make things happen. And that's been my strongest tool, is really scaling back and focusing back in on what I really, really want to do. And yes, it's a new day. I mean, just look at how many female artists have all of a sudden appeared. They didn't all of a sudden appear. They've always been there, just silenced or hidden in bad deals, or you know, just not really appreciated. And I think it's nice to have random people pop up, as you would call it, random, like the Lizzos and the Cardis and the, all these people that are just back to back, Meg Thee Stallion, and they're all so amazing. The world just wasn't ready for them at back in the day, and now it is, and it's made doors open for other people. People like Meg Thee Stallion have reached out to LGBTQ artists and have embraced styles, and that just opens it up more and more and more. And I think if each artist can continue being themselves and their real selves, there will be more doors open for people after us. And I think that is one of the things I'm very strong about, is making sure that the next generations do see random creativity, and it's going to spark their creativity. And I hope that they can figure out a way to make this thing even better. Maybe they get a insight of what it can be, and at a younger age, and take it and make it their story.
Yeah. And I think you're definitely right. I mean, when I started this podcast, we just reviewed albums, like different hip hop albums, and and it was three white Aussie dudes. So the irony of like us just like, so definitely understand that, like,
Cool.
it's just like, that's what we love. That's what our friendship was built on. But then we did a like women's round of like listening to women's albums. And one of the albums that one of my friends picked was The Lady of Rage. And she is an artist who was signed to Dre. And in the era of like, Snoop Dogg and that like prime era, and she only has one album. And I think it's called Necessary Roughness. And it's such a good album. Like, it is one of the most underrated albums, but it never got time. It just never got released properly. And it's like, you're 100% right. All these artists, they still existed. The people like Lady of Rage, the people like Lauryn Hill, they paved the way for others. And it's just like, the more we get in terms of people willing and taking a risk and putting themselves out there, like yourself, of just, hey, you know what? It's time. I'm ready. And there's enough of a shift for me to be like, let's go for it. That is only good for music. That is only good for other people. And like, let's be honest, if you make good music, you make good music. Who gives a shit about anything else?
And if you can keep doing it, that's a bonus point. And you like, just stay focused and not let the BS knock you off, or and it's okay to have a vision and alter it. It is like, that's another thing I got into. Like, it's okay to be like, I'm going this route. I'm just kidding, going this way. Like, that's okay. Be clear about your intentions. Be open to change. Be open to growth. I mean, like, if we were going one route and just stay there, you can't grow. Like, it's still gonna get you to the bigger vision if you just allow it to be natural and allow it to be or be open to growth. Be open to people add into your life that you didn't expect. When I first started doing music, I did not know Lardy B was going to be a part of this process. Did not know Saucy Santana was going to be a part of this journey. Did not know B King or any of these people were going to be a part of this journey, or that they would even be open to it. Like they can also say no. They can literally also just be like, no, I don't want to do it. And so you can't plan for that. You just keep working, and as you work, you build you build a little bit of resume, you build a little bit of connections with people, and I think those connections lead you to more connections, and those experiences lead you to bigger experiences, and you just gotta take what you have to get what you want.
I agree. And I think we all get in this place sometimes, is like the embarrassment of changing your mind, of being like, hey, I'm actually going to shift my direction. I suffer from that. Is like, I'll tell everyone, like, I've made up my mind, I'm going to do this. And then it's like, actually, now that I see the path, I'm not a fan of where this is going. So I'm going to transition. And then people are like, what happened? Why did you? And it's like, just, I saw it and I was like, maybe that wasn't the right move. So I'm going to switch, and being able to be humble enough to be like, I'm going to just switch it up because this is not going to work, and being able to see that. I think that's a challenge as well. I think it ties back to the inability to celebrate, also with the inability, the stubbornness of like, hey, I do have to change something. I can't do the same, like banging your head against the wall. You just can't do that for time and time again.
Yes, that's easy to say unless you're my producer, because he hates it. He's like, "Are you freaking kidding me? We're changing the vision." I'm like, "We're changing it. We're changing it." It's like, "Okay, I'll get it back to you next week." Like, um, but it's just a part of our relationship. It's I'm thankful for having someone that is understanding and willing to shift gears every once in a while, or every time we're on a project. And he keeps me grounded too. He's like, okay, just make sure you don't change things that we actually need. With changing genres, or like going into like EDM, make sure we have the drops, because if you don't have the drops, it doesn't make sense if you don't have it. Um, so he's good about like, get the vision, I got it, but we still got to make sense within our lane that we're in. So he's good about ringling me back in if I do get too much in my head, because sometimes it's just in your head. It's just like, maybe it's not as bad as you think. And sometimes it's like putting the track down and coming back to it with clear mind, clear heart, clear head, and not too attached to it that you're suffocating the track, or the project. It doesn't have to be that. It could be freaking a photo shoot that you overthinking like what it looks like, and just it's a lot. But when you are an independent artist, you're very hands on, so you get to be more particular about the vision. And because if it works, it's because of you. If it fails, it's because of you. If it's almost there, it's because of you. It's going to be because of you. So you might as well beat the punch and be involved and be excited about the process than be left behind and regret that you didn't give enough.
Do you find that happens a lot to you, that you have to take a step back?
Every once in a while, yeah. Yeah, I mean, the song with Saucy Santana, Bossy, we actually started a whole year ago, and it just released. And it's just because I took a different path of creating the song. We took a sample and we sent him a sample, and we're like, this is the vibe, this is the beat. And we had like a basic beat we created. And we used like a sample that has been used so many times, and just to give him a base of like, this is how long the hook is going to be, your verse goes here, like just to structure it out for him, so he's not like, okay, so what is this, where do we go? But without it being too many words on it, so he had an open mind to write to. And I already had my verse done and just waited for his to get back. It just never sent it to him. And then when I got his back, I was like, oh my god, this is mine is not good enough. Like, he just killed this. And I wrote, redid it, took redid the hook, made the hook again, made the hook again, made the hook again. Dang, still not there. Change the beat again, change the beat again, change the beat, rewrite the verse. Finally, I'm like, I like it. I freaking like it. But later on, I went back through his stems and I was just listening to like his recording process, like just me on my own, just going through the files. and listen to the stems, and it's just like he's like, "Fuck, I messed up. Can I do that part again? Can I record?" And I was like, "So it's not just me. Like, I'm not the only fucking person that feels like this." Like, he's like, "I could have performed that better." Like, I actually have recordings of him saying, like, "I could have." No, I can't send him that. That let me redo that. That part is not good enough. What should I say here? Like, it just the things that I do normally, it's good to hear that like other people do that. And I guess we just cut all those things out and when we placed it on the track and we didn't really go through it like that. But when I actually did go through each stem and was listening to like how it was tracked, I was like, wow, I overthought this by a lot. Like I overthought this by a lot. Like it's big deep breath, but I'm very pleased with the ending result. It just was good to see that I am crazy, but like not it's not unusual
Oh,
to
completely.
go back to the drawing board. It's not unusual to demand greatness. It's not unusual to see it bigger. It's not unusual to mess up and have to fix it. Like it's art. There's no right or wrong way to do it.
Honestly, though, if you didn't do that, I don't think you'd be as good. Like, I've definitely spoken to artists who are like, I just go in the booth and I just spit whatever I spit, and that's the song. And the part of me that is a perfectionist and the part of me that wants the artist to be at their best doesn't like that. I hate hearing that because it's like, come on, if you put in 20 extra minutes, do you not think you could do better? Like, even if it's really good, do you not think that you could clean it up a little bit? Like, that's the part of me that's like the coach. I'm like the oldest of three brothers, so that's like the mentor. That's like the come on, man, go back in there and just tweak it a little bit more. Like there could be,
One
yeah,
more round.
there's more juice in there. You just because you went in once doesn't mean it's done. You just got the beginning. You didn't finish it, and I feel like with artists in long term careers, they go back in and they fix it, and they are willing to be self critical enough to be like, that isn't good enough, but have enough people around them to be like, hey, that was actually good. You're just now being self critical and you're just hurting yourself and going through the process. So it's like, you have to be driven, but you need the team around you to give you true guidance.
And I think that's one of the big things about having the DJs involved. Like a lot of people don't really connect to DJs anymore, but I think the DJs are so important, a big part of the puzzle. Like they're gonna have to go out and push play on this song, and they're gonna have to tell you what moves, what types of crowds. Like having those connections are very important, especially for someone like me that makes music for people to dance to, that makes energy in both music. I want to know what that energy is. I want to know how they reacted to it. So I'm like, can you record that for me and let me see how people move to it? Like, can you like, and they're honest with me, like, okay, yeah, but let's get the BPM to here, or like let's get it to, we love the song, but we can't mix that with this crowd because, like, even if it's a target crowd, we can't mix it because it doesn't match the other songs that we would play in that on that night at the club or that so you back to the drawing board, and sometimes switching the BPM is a whole rewrite. Some verses don't work when it's faster. It just does not work. Or slower. It's like that sounds terrible. So it's a complete rewrite sometimes, and that's art. You have to be okay with editing, not your vision, but editing your what you're putting out, your product, to make it fit the actual vision, or it goes nowhere. It goes nowhere. It's just like another thing you get yourself overly involved in, and it's getting so hyped up for nothing because now you did all that work and it did not go the direction you want it to go to. And I think a part of getting the direction you want to go to is failure, but like how many times you're gonna do that? How
I
many
agree.
times are you gonna not listen to the DJs or connect to those people that you would really like to connect to? So I think the DJs are such a good component, and I'm very thankful for them. I think they are still one of the most powerful branches and sources of music, and cultivators and distributors and pieces, like heavy pieces of what makes music great.
Yeah. Because they really do push it out to the people.
They do, and they think that most artists now like put it on Spotify. I'm like, is that's your only dream? That's your only goal is to go to Spotify? Like, then what? You know, like you gotta have a little bit more vision. And I know that I'm a high energy base, so I think the clubs, that's a big piece for me. And if you're not, there's still other styles of DJs, like wedding DJs. It's not high energy. It's still they're bringing your music to a wedding. That is, how many Shazams can you get at a wedding? I don't know. It's like you still need those people that you connect with. If you're in EDM, that's all it is a DJ up there spinning your records. Like the festivals are huge. So like discrediting or not using that resource is very, very not smart for artists ever.
No,
Ever.
you are the first person. I've done over 140 interviews. The first person to be like, I utilize DJs. Like really strongly utilize DJs and thinking about what that as a market does. So, man, my props go to you because, yeah, people have not said that to me before. Maybe they do, they just don't tell me. But first time I heard it in like a long time. Well, first time I heard it at all. So it shows that you're doing the right things in terms of thinking about music and your market differently.
Absolutely, you have to. And those people will become friends, and they're also, if they're friends with you, they become connections and actual supporters of your music as well. They love music. That's why they're DJs. Like, so if you are music and that's your passion too, you already have common ground. It's not really rocket science here. It's not really rocket science in that aspect. I mean, every DJ is, they don't have the time to go through the emails and do all this stuff, but like go to the club and meet them personally. Like go actually be present and be reasonable. Don't hound them down now. They don't like that. Be reasonable, but be realistic in your goals. And those people are big, big key holders in music in general.
Well, I think you're on your way to continuing to do fantastic things. And I only have one more question for you. It's probably going to be the
Okay.
hardest question that I ask. It's the only question that I planned on the show. I actually lied to you when I said to you I don't have any questions. I only planned one. But if you had to recommend one album that everybody should listen to get an appreciation of, doesn't have to be the greatest album of all time, but just something that people should appreciate, cannot be your own music, can be any genre of music, what would it be?
Mm. If it's recent time, I would definitely say Beyonce's latest Renaissance. I think it was so well thought out. I think it was so inclusive. It had a point to it. It had her story involved with also uh, showing tribute and respect to other communities. It has complete like writing, like just an album that in a world of singles, in a world of singles, um, an album, and that's a dying, I guess, concept of people just don't make albums anymore. So Renaissance, I think, brought back the importance of really thinking this through and really putting out a body of work that is powerful, and has purpose behind it and has fun to it and you would love to play on repeat. I don't know, maybe someone like LMA, even her EPs, it's not always like the albums, her LMA's EPs were great. Like I still play that on repeat. It's a little bit older than Renaissance, but it's still like her transitions from one song to the next, I think were just so smooth and so like easy and just so like effortless, which I know we know is not easy to do. It's very thought out, and her writing is impeccable. Anything Missy Elliott has done, just go ahead and put that on the list. I don't know that I could pick one. There's so many greats out there that have done it well, um, but those are probably at the top of my list
Well,
for
there we go.
sure.
And I agree. I think and the construction of an album is so important and it is underrated. And it also shows a different side to an artist. Like it's different artistry because it's not just a song, it's a concept. And how does it fit all together? All the greatest artists of all time have a classic album. They all have an album that you're like,
Also Montero. Montero, how to forget that? Lil Nas X, his album was incredible, and his rollout plan was beautiful. And that was another album done from beginning to end with complete creativity, innovation. Just I don't know. I feel like it's hard to make music that everyone can relate to, but he gathered a lot of people together on that one. And I just think the connectivity of being an artist and bringing people together is what music really should do. It should, you know, bring the party, bring the life, bring the story, bring the good times. And sometimes we got to remember the bad times in our music too. But it's to bring the reality and have be relatable. And he did that beautifully, beautifully.
I agree with you. And the other thing that I 100% want to say is I always appreciate people coming on my show. I appreciate you coming on my show. I'm really excited to see, what is held in your future. I'm excited to see what you do for the rest of 2023. I'm sure there'll be really big things. I'm excited to see what you do with your sound. And as I said at the beginning and probably throughout, I think people like yourself, the more that take risks and go out and show who they are, I think the better the music space becomes and is. And the one thing I love about hip hop right now is that it is a space for anyone, and that is probably the first time in hip hop's history that it's really been this open and inclusive space. So people like yourself continue to help make that happen. So I really appreciate it. I'm sure your fans always really appreciate it. For anyone who hasn't listened to his music, please make sure you do. Just released Freaky Deaky, as we said, with Beat King, Lardy B, so you can check that out. Also, you can follow him on IG, and you're on TikTok. But man, is there anything you wanted to plug, anything you wanted to shout out as well?
No, just thank you for having me on your show, first of all. Yeah, and this has been so much fun. I love to get in the chat and tell my story and meet new people. What's up? That's what it's about. That's what it's all about. So thank you. And yeah, Real X-Men's World is my socials on all platforms. So YouTube, Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, all that is Real X-Men's World. Yeah, thanks for having me.